man. Thank you so much, Alec, for having me on Hall D here. We're getting ready to have a heck of a guest once again. We're having it's almost like it's a sequel from the original Mainframe Comic-Con where it's being Alec. But we get to bring on with us once again, returning to Mainframe Comic-Con, Kevin Eastman. So I said, let's go ahead and he's ready to go. And there he is. What's going on, Kevin? So my first
question to see you again.
I just got to ask, how are you doing, Kevin? Are you staying healthy through all of this insanity in the world right now?
I am, yes. Thanks for asking. And yeah, we're hunkered down pretty well, and we've been really blessed. We've got plenty of work. Our family is safe and healthy, and our son is as well. Yeah, so we're great. Nice. I hope it's the same for you guys. You guys doing all right as well?
So far, so good.
Well,
how about you, Alec?
All right,
I'm in Florida, so I'm doing my best.
Yes. Well, I know you're a hot spot. We're in California, so in San Diego area. So it's like we have to be, we all have to be careful anyway. But it's just sort of one of those like, just doesn't take much to take the extra step to be a little more protective of all of our loved ones. So.
Definitely,
absolutely. And I just want to remind everybody that we're here in part to help support the Hero Initiative. So definitely visit heroinitiative.org. To see how you can help them out. And as well, any super chats from this weekend's event will go directly to the Hero Initiative. So if you guys got questions in the chat, just feel free to throw them out there. I'll get to them as best I can. But the first question I actually wanted to ask, before we even start talking TMNT, because when you get Kevin Eastman, you're going to mention Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course. I want to talk about drawing blood. I didn't get a chance to ask about drawing blood last time. So what were some of the inspirations that went into creating this with David Avallone? Because this is a pretty fun and interesting story.
Thank you. No, thanks for asking about it. It really was it's one of those projects that evolved naturally, which I think is the greatest creative space to be in. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of semi-autobiographical things in there. For example, I started writing this like a sketchbook diary probably 10 years plus ago. And it was about interesting experiences I had, whether it be in the world of comic books, publishing, experiences in Hollywood. Just really, truth can be stranger than fiction sometimes. And so there's this really bizarre stuff that I was experiencing, and it was so funny. I found it humorous. And then at the same time, a lot of times going to comic conventions and things like that, I'd see, I get to hang out after hours with, different other people, Alan Moore and Frank Miller and other people, and they would sort of all these stories of things that they were experiencing. It was just like, so I would write all these things down, and out of that, I kind of thought if I created a character that was like existed within the world of comic books, the comic book world we all know and we live in. I exist in this space where this character that David Avallone and I created called Shane Bookman, and we did kind of a Spinal Tap sort of take on it, but we could go farther and deeper and push it, so we could add a little Barry and a little Let's Call Saul and Spinal Tap, and really sort of create this character that we could put through the paces and have a good time and tell a great story set within a comic universe. So it's we call it the completely fictional true story of Shane Bookman and his creation of the radically rearranged Ronin ragdolls with his brother Paul, and that was an ode to Eastman and Laird's Turtles, a decade or so earlier, and he had a huge amount of success. Went down the other side of the mountain, and now he's sort of digging his way back. So there's gunfights, there's call girls, there's gangsters, there's everything you can imagine, and David and I are having an absolute blast doing it.
And how much of that is autobiographical?
Well, it's like. I laugh because in the first 6 pages of issue 1, Shane Bookman and his best friend Nigel Boswell, nicknamed Beasley, which is directly inspired by my dear friend Simon Bisley, get into a gunfight. And I have yet to be in a gunfight. You never know. I've not been in a gunfight. So there are chunks of it, some foundation that is autobiographical. There's a lot of stuff that's pulled from a lot of other stuff, David's experiences and mine. But a lot of it's to other people we know. And I want to mention too, most of all, is we're very, very lucky that artist Ben Bishop is the one that's bringing these fantastic scripts, these ideas of mine, these fantastic scripts of David's. Ben's bringing it all to life. And the regular comic book, there's flashbacks and there's hallucination scenes also that we use the fantastic Troy Little, who's, he's done everything from, Rick and Morty meets, he's done Rick and Morty comics. He's done Angora Napkin. He did the Radically Rearranged from Ragdoll's comic. So it's a really great little family of creative people bringing this project to life.
That would have been a tremendous story if you brought up that. Oh, yeah, by the way, that time I dueled Simon Bisley.
It is. There's so much of that. There's funny. There's a scene in the in issue 4, because we're currently working on issues 5 through 8. It was our second Kickstarter we did last year. We're nearing the end of this next round. It's going to be 12 issues total that'll complete the first arc. But there's a great scene in issue 4 where Shane Bookman is going into this convention at New York City Comic Con to help validate the fact that Morgan Harbor, which is no relation to Michael Bay, Morgan Harbor, Morgan Harbor decided to make their creation, and he's doing this radically dark live-action reimagining of the characters, and he's making them aliens instead of mutants, and all the fans are in an uproar. And so Shane is going there, and there's a moment where Shane meets Shane meets me as Kevin Eastman in that little exchange before he goes in and sets everything right and makes sure that the characters remain mutants, not aliens. So there's a lot of pieces like that fans that know that know the turtle history will sort of go, oh, I remember, I know where that
little Easter eggs for the fans.
Yeah, but it's a great series, and I think that when people start sinking their teeth into it, I think they'll really get a kick out of it. So thanks for bringing it up. So,
oh, no problem. I was actually going to ask, where can people find Drawing Blood the easiest? I know you mentioned Kickstarter. Obviously, the copies I have, I found at a local shop. Is there a definitive way people should try to find Drawing Blood?
Well, if you go, you can find back issues, the individual issues that we have still in stock at KevinEastmanStudios.com. Pretty much anything you want to know about anything I'm doing or what's going on from the various different projects I'm working on, you can go there. You can order all kinds of back issues and things like that, like Drawing Blood and some of the individual issues. But we had actually scheduled to ship the Volume 1 collection that included issues 1 through 4, as well as the Radically Rearranged Ronin Ragdolls, all in one trade with a big behind-the-scenes thing. It was supposed to ship in April. So that went the wayside. So in our conversations with Diamond, they said re-solicit for it. So we're going to re-solicit for it later this fall for the collection. But you can find most of the stuff we still have in stock at Eastman Studios.
Awesome. That's
and I just linked that in the chat for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so definitely visit Kevin Eastman Studios. There's a lot of other awesome things you can find there, of course. But I want to transition now into the current run Turtles, because this current run has been so amazing. And once again, congratulations for hitting that 100 issue mark. I think we talked a little bit about that last time. But I was just kind of curious as to what the long-term plan is now, because there's been so many new seeds planted in like the last 6 or 7 issues. Like, how far out are you guys planning on the new run?
Oh, it's my cat's trying to break out of the studio. You're stuck in here now. Well, after the incredible Tom Waltz guided us through 100 issues, and we wrapped that up in December of last year. Then the incredibly awesome, equally awesome Sophie Campbell took over for the first 7 issues, and now there's a few related. So it was sort of like in the seeds that have been planted, not only in the first, like you said, 7 issues that Sophie's written and oversaw, and then Tom put out an annual, a 220 annual came out, so sort of collected some of what's been going on, while this particular series is focused on what's going on in Mutant Town, which is where these mutants that have been sort of all corralled and sort of put into the section of New York. But we work generally about 4 or 5 issues out, and a lot of times there's a bigger plan that will cover, say, 12 issues plus, but then it sort of hunkers down into at least a couple issues ahead. Like, I'm working on the cover of issue 9 right now. It's actually due on Monday. But it's been interesting. We just sort of, once the publishing schedule, and now that so many shops can reopen and we can start getting back into a regular flow, we've been doing a little catch up and doing a little forward thinking. So we want to catch everybody up and keep them interested. There's some fun stuff coming up.
Awesome. And I just want to say a special thank you to Just a Rican and his comics, our friend Rod over there. He says, I'll speak for my good friend. Thanks for everything, Eastman. I think his friend is tied up at work. He said he can't be here for the live stream. I'm sure he'll watch it on the rewind. But just big thanks once again for Just a Rican for the $10 super chat. That'll be going right to the Hero Initiative. And speaking of long-term planning, another question I want to ask was about a specific character. And this character had such a big impact on the City at War storyline. That's Old Hob. So when I was reading the original first trade of Turtles, I didn't know if Old Hob was going to be like this, just like almost filler type character, or if he was going to have this like nice long run and grow as such a big character like he did. So my question is, like, did you guys have this plan to keep Old Hob for those 100 issues and to have him, eventually have this pivotal moment where he's kind of almost responsible for the creation of Mutant Town?
Yep, absolutely. No, that's what's been so absolutely incredibly wonderful. The entire experience, starting with, when I was asked to join in with the team back in issue, August. I think the first issue came in August 2011, but I had come in earlier by invitation by IDW and get to start working with the incredible Tom Waltz and then Bobby Curnow as series editor, who's been through the whole things. And back then we were hoping for like fingers and toes crossed that would make it for a year. If we could do 12 issues, it would be like, yes. But the fans really came out and supported this project, and we got through that first year, with art by the awesomely talented Dan Duncan. But the characters that sort of were created, like Old Hob and some of the others that we sort of set up in that first year, we didn't have a specific plan for the next year because we weren't sure if we'd have another year. But as it started, by the time we were getting well through year two, we could really see sales were holding steady. The support was really great, so we were able to look farther down the road. And it was one of those Hail Marys that we were thinking, like, all right, if we can make the issue 50, that would be incredible. So the best part of the entire creative process, not only with the writing and the long-term vision of where we'd like to see it go and the artists we get to work with, has just been always story first. And it's been one of those things where the things that you sort of set up and the things that evolve as you're working through each issue and through each arc, new ideas come out of that, and you sort of hold on to those darlings and sort of look where you can put them in place only as it makes sense, like, hey, let's kill off a character to bump up sales, or let's do this to create some new interest in the series. You're either going to like it the way we're doing it, and thankfully everybody has, or we don't want to. We just want to keep true to the story.
I mean, it definitely shows. There's a reason why it's lasted this long, and there's a lot of people say it's some of the best Turtles books ever. So it shows that you're putting the care and the thought into it for sure.
Well, that's all. I gotta put all that blame on Tom Waltz once again. He's really it's like if there was 3 men and a baby, it'd be like me and Peter and Tom kind of thing. He's the official stepfather of the Turtles, and has such love and passion and care for the characters. It's just been one of those. It's been a blessing, and we've had so much fun. And I call it I feel like I equate it to, Walt Simonson's run on Thor, because everybody loves what Stan and Jack did originally, but a lot of people feel like Walt Simonson's run on Thor was sort of the definitive Thor, because it captured so many things and it threaded together so many wonderful things about that universe and the character. I feel that Tom's 100 issues really is a definitive thing. Not setting aside the original black and white series, but this is a really definitive story that sets up everything to it. So you need to make a series of it.
Go ahead, Alec.
I wanted to touch base on the last Ronin a little bit.
Yes.
So first of all, I'm not a big speculator, but I do find myself curious about it. So there's a lot of talk about the variant for issue 104. Is that the first appearance of Last Ronin on the cover?
No, on issue 104.
Yeah, there's a variant that came out that people are all excited about because it shows a turtle with a bunch of different weapons, and people think it's the last Ronin.
Oh, well, I have to look at that because I don't think so.
Okay.
But
I didn't think so either, but it's going wild on eBay right now.
Oh, really? I have to look at that now. If I have some, put some on me. No, I'm kidding. No, but because we really the ideas that evolved, as you know, you read through some of the press,
Yeah.
originally and then even recently was, it's based on about a 20-page treatment that Peter and I wrote back in 1987. It was set 30 years in the future, so 2017. So it's funny that by the time Tom and I really sort of started focusing on it as we would like to go after issue 100 as a separate series, it was already 31 years since
yeah, right.
the original idea and a year past when we originally said it. So we took quite seriously and quite sincerely a lot of the original ideas and concepts and threads and things that were sort of set up in that original treatment, and then we adapted it and sort of pushed it 15 to 20 years in the future from now. But we updated a lot of things and added a lot of things, but we really wanted to stay true to so many of the ideas that were originally sparked back then, because it was really a very interesting look when you think of in 1987, Peter and I were just finishing and printing issue 11, which wrapped up, the first, I guess I call it the first 15 issues, which is, issues 1 through 11 plus the one issue.
Right, the Leonardo, the Raphael issue.
Yeah, so we were sort of in that space, and I think we were, where are we going after issue 11? And then we went like, well, what if we looked way down the road and what they do in 30 years, and we sort of then use that as something we can look at and head in that direction. And so the evolution of this idea came around in the same way that we were looking at after issue 100 going, well, where are we going to go after this? There was a lot of ideas, but I showed this idea to Tom, and that's when it really got exciting. We really, we're completely mind melded on it, and it's just, I'm like, I have last Ronin pages stacked up over there that I'm working on now, and I'm doing a Conan story for Marvel, which I'm doing over there, and I've got a few other covers.
So that was actually going to be my first real question about the last Ronin, which was, why exactly do you think that it took so long to actually make this come to fruition? Was it just circumstance? It just wasn't the right time, or it needed the right creative team? Because, like you said, you've had this idea for a couple of years.
Well, it's a really good question, because it was something that, in this folder where I kept a lot of ideas that Peter and I had, I think there's still, another dozen or so of things that, just whether it be, a couple of Post-it notes of what about this, to say a 2 or 3 page treatment. It was sort of, everything was set and beholden to that original Mirage universe, which really, for all, purposes, really didn't exist. It was a universe within itself. And then you look at the different Turtle universes that have evolved. When you look at, I don't know, the Archie series or the original animated series or the 2012, Nickelodeon series, to some of the movies, everyone sort of had their different place and space in this Turtle universe that was sort of built around this, the home world, I guess, of what Peter and I originally did. And it just felt like it didn't fit into any of those universes. And so when Tom and I got to the end of the original ongoing run, issue 100, we looked at it and said, well, what if we took this idea, and that was, well, the spark was, what if we took this idea and set it up in a universe where it's not the IDW universe, it's not any other universe we've seen. It does lean heavily towards the Mirage universe, but I guess our approach and the excitement and what we pitched to Nickelodeon and IDW was, like when Dark Knight first came out, it was a universe within itself. It played off elements and characters that you knew and well within the Batman universe, but it was sort of set off to the left or off to the right, however you want to look at it. And we wanted it to be more intense, a lot more action. Thus, 40 pages per issue for 5 issues. I've asked for, 20-page fight scene set pieces in each issue that I'm designing. I wanted to go all out and take it to a place where it plays on so many of the elements, both Tom and it plays on so many of the original elements, but it does. I'm trying not to give too much away. There is closure. There's this aspect of this family and the vengeance that basically, you look at the first issue of the Turtles and they were raised and trained to kill, Oroku Saki. That was the original concept in issue 1. Here we are 36 years later in the overall series. And so we really wanted to put some closure on the different elements, but it is a universe in itself. So there's the timing just made sense, and it finally made sense in a way that we could do something cool and positive and tell a really good story. That was the most important thing to us.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's going to be a premium format, right? It's going to be a larger format.
Yeah, we felt we wanted to, and that was a discussion we had early on, and I think they're still working on the size thing. But my hope and dream was Tom and I was to do it the same size as like the original Turtle comic books.
Yeah.
So it's sort of larger and we want a lot of meat on the bones, so to speak. So when you sink your teeth, because Peter and I did, I think most of our issues were between 35 and 40 pages long. Except for some, the single Turtle character one shots. But so we wanted this to be in that same neighborhood.
So my next question I wanted to ask, and by the way, we do have Sophie Campbell joining us here in about 10 minutes or so. And I wanted to mention that because there has been an awesome influx of female characters and influence into TMNT, especially recently. So I was going to ask, and my friend Catrin Figures from the Comic Court channel wanted me to kind of allude to all these awesome characters as well, whether it be Alopex, Jenica, even Venus from the Next Mutation. What's it been like working with these female characters around the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as we know them?
Well, it's a great question because it is one of those things that, Peter and I, back in the earliest days, we were huge fans of strong female characters. I mean, whether it be our love and appreciation to, Sarah Connor or Lieutenant Ripley or, so many others. The list is long. So we wanted to always have that kind of presence in the Turtle universe. And when, I worked on the original Venus de Milo series, which, a lot of fans didn't like, and I understand why. Of course, it was sort of forced and put into a context that didn't really make sense of how we launched it. But, from the original Archie series, Dean Clorane and others, we did Ninjara, and there was, a lot of great, awesome, Sally, there's a lot of great female characters. And so Tom and I, once we get to issue 50, we were sort of looking at how to bring in another more strong female characters, and that's where Tom came up with the idea for this character Jenica, which was part of issue 51. We were sort of wanted to see, because we liked the idea, and as we put her into the series, wanted to see how she worked into it story-wise, and as well as the fan reaction. When she became popular, and we really made a bigger part of the whole family, along with the other characters. We Tom really wanted to bring a female turtle in, but it was, as I could agree, I had already tried it and didn't work as well as I'd hoped. But as the plan sort of came together, I think it was around issue 60, 65 that we were just sort of like, we see a way that we can transition Jenica into the fifth turtle, fifth turtle, make it a female. And the idea loosely was around, how like She-Hulk became She-Hulk for transfusion and all that stuff. And even Tom reached out to Sophie initially and said, hey, I got this idea and I think we can figure out a way to fit it in. And Sophie did those original sketches, which there was no deviation from what she originally sketched to what we then ended up using in issue 95 when we introduced her. So it was one of those things that it was a Hail Mary, only in the sense that we loved it. It made sense story-wise. We hoped that when it came out, the fans would really support it. And man, the response was just fantastic and over the top. So we're thrilled to have that kind of strong female character within the Turtles family initially. And then what's great about what Sophie's been doing so beautifully with Mutant Town, she's just brought in a whole much wider range of mutant characters, which was the cool part of when we had an old Hobbs set off the mutagen bomb, and what happened in the mutagen, what happened to this whole new army of mutants, he was trying to raise an army, and Sophie really took that idea to the next level. She said, well, I'm going to make this, all those characters are still based on human, characters and emotions and experiences and stuff. So they had this life before, but now they're living and trying to figure out how their life is going to evolve as mutants. And she plays that character stuff. Sophie does. She plays that character stuff so well and so beautifully. So, she deserves all the credit for really bringing that whole community to life in every sense of the word.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Lord Smaff in the chat is talking about how much he likes Jenica and the Mutant Town and how that's such a cool concept. And I agree. I think the Mutant Town stuff has really brought in a breath of fresh air into the title. And, yeah, I was actually going to ask, like, what was it like getting a chance to create Mutant Town? How many, like, creative freedoms that opened up to have all these new mutants all of a sudden?
Well, that was so much fun. That was the kind of the idea where, when we had in the past, in the original up to 100 run, when mutant characters brought in, it was sort of, Baxter Stockman had some involvement in it on one level. You had Agent Bishop sort of with Slash and what he was doing. And then, so it was never, it was always sort of, I don't say mean-spirited, but it was. I mean, Slash was kind of a weapon used for this, and it was that. So we really couldn't find a way to create a wider mutant family, I'd say outside of the Mutanimals, which was sort of, we wanted to keep that contained to a certain group of people. And that, so when we saw this opportunity again, we had the mutagen bomb go off, and we had all these characters created. And originally, we actually were like going to have the whole island of New York, Manhattan, be, turned into mutants. And it was like, no, that's crazy. So we scaled it back to a smaller crowd where we could contain it. But then once that family and the amount of mutants that were created was established, that was really sort of where we handed it off to Sophie. So she's really brought that world to life again. So beautiful. So.
Absolutely.
I've got a couple of. What's that?
I said more characters we can play with down the road.
Oh yeah, definitely. Always fun to have more toys.
Yeah.
I have a quick question, just a curiosity question, and then a real question. My quick question is, out of curiosity, how many copies of issue 1 do you still have?
4.
Yeah?
Seriously. Actually, we had 2 that we had kept. And then my dad recently, he collects a lot of like old hot rod magazines and car magazines, and just they're, every one of them's labeled and stored in bags and boarded, and he loves that stuff. But he had saved 2 copies that were signed by Peter and I at the very first Portsmouth Comic-Con.
Oh wow!
And so he had bagged them and sort of put them away, and so last year as a gift he said, well, I want you to have one back, but I want to give one to Shane, our son Shane. He's just 14 now. But yeah, when we did those, it was, we couldn't imagine it being worth anything more than
what you were asking for it. Yeah.
Than what we were asking for it. It was, and so a lot of it was like, I'd give them to friends and relatives, and Merry Christmas. I can't afford anything else. Here's a copy of my comic book. So a lot of them were definitely passed on to friends and family.
So the 2 that you kept, those that you still have those, and those were from when you first put it out.
Yep. Those are when I first put it out.
You never like went back and said, "Oh shoot, I should have kept one and went and bought one."
No, well, it's it's one of those. No, just I had the 2, and again, we never, and I've seen, when we've all seen, and as comics, as collectible comics and original art and things like that, have gone up. I was just looking, scanning the most recent Heritage auction site just for some of the stuff, and we're seeing, 35, 40, 50,000 on,
it's crazy.
5 Captain Americas and things like that. Some of these comics and in original art has gone through the roof. I think the first couple of pages of original art Pete and I sold on the Turtles was like, I think it was $25 or $30 a page, and I think we both were like, you know what, we put a lot of work into these pages. Let's just save them. So Pete saved a lot more than I have, but definitely started just holding on to the original art, especially.
Yeah. So my real question is a little more in depth. If we have the time, we're running right up at 3:30, so maybe we don't. Okay. But I was just wondering really quickly what you feel like kind of the future is for independent self-published comics.
It's a good question, and there's a long answer, but I think the short answer version is for sure that as long as people have the incentive, the drive, the will, and they want to put out original ideas, I've seen such diversification not only in publishing of things that are happening on independent comic books, but even when, say, Diamond or some of the other big distributors shut the door on supporting or getting out to the market independent comic books, just it's a difficult thing to wrangle and manage. Yeah. Internet, print on demand, Facebook socialization clubs. I mean, everything that people can get clubs and get their ideas and get this vision of what they want to say creatively through the combination of words and pictures, comic books, graphic novels. I think it's going to stay strong, and I think once we get past some of the issues we're all overcoming right now, because we miss being out there on the road, we miss seeing the fans as much as
so do we.
They miss, we all miss that.
Why we're trying to do this?
Yeah, no, exactly. I do every one of these that I'm invited to because I think it's so important. Because it's, but I think that we wait for that normalcy where we can get out there and support. Because I would, we want it to be a great creative environment that would continue growing and coming up with some really great ideas. So I'm super positive and super hopeful about comics as an entertainment medium overall.
Love to hear that.
Awesome.
So we are running up at 3:30, which is going to be we're going to be bringing on Sophie Campbell here. Obviously, we understand if you have to leave, but if you want to hang out, you're welcome to do that too.
Well, you know what? I'd love to hang out, but I also feel like I have so much respect for Sophie. She's got a lot to say, and she's really got some stuff going on. So I don't want to crowd her space.
Fair enough.
Do some, I love her. I think she's a great talent. I'm so glad that we have her as part of the Turtle family.
Absolutely.
So tell her, all the best, Sophie. Hope to see you live and in person one day soon. And, same with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see you at a con again.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kevin Eastman, for taking the time, and thank you for doing my job and introducing Sophie much better than I would have.
I'm sure you do just fine. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. I hope to get to see you again. So maybe, once we finally get the last Ronin out on the stands, we can revisit and chat a bit more.
Absolutely, would love
That'd be awesome.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Cowabunga, man.
Cowabunga.